Good evening, Danvers. My name is Mark Zuberek, and welcome to the Topics of the Town. And tonight we have John Toomey, Matt Duggan, and a special report from John Zavaglia.
Your old partner.
The old partner is right. So what I'd just like to do is, this is the July 11th show, Topics of the Town News. And the topics of the town news reporting is direct and comprehensive. Our stories are in-depth and represent stories that no other news media wants to report. We will always report only the truth, sometimes with our opinion included. So just to be, fair, today we have a special report that's been compiled by John Zavaglia. And what we'll do is give him a little bit of an introduction. Can you just tell us what the story's all about?
Did you want to tell them about last month, or
no? What are you talking about?
Sure.
And then we'll go into the last month's clips.
All right. On Jalbert Lane, there's some land that they wants to be sold to maybe create a single-family home. The selectmen voted 3-2 in their meeting Tuesday, June 18th, to basically release the land to the Affordable Housing Trust. Following 2 hours of voiced apprehension from abutters. To make this short and simple and sweet, I thought there was some conflicts of interest. Selectmen expressed concerns about lack of info, or not timely info, on and on and on. And it kind of bothered me that there was conflict of interest, and people did not, one person did not recuse himself. So I go to the meeting, I go to the meeting of August 9th. Now, before I start, the first 5 minutes when I was on, due to technical difficulties, is not on. But before anyone thinks that it's a conspiracy theory, Rosemary Woods, Watergate, 18 minutes, it's not. Nate Young, tremendous volunteer, and I don't know, what would you call him? He does everything here. Well, he noticed a glitch while I was talking, a computer glitch. So it's not like someone intentionally erased when I was on. So after I found out about that, I called Mark and said, can I be on and tell people what I talked about?
Well,
go ahead.
In the meantime, John, if I may, I think this would be a very appropriate time to show brief clips from the selectmen's meeting when this original subject was being discussed.
Okay.
So if we show clip 1A, and this is from an excerpt from the June 18th selectmen's meeting. We can't hear the voice.
Jalbert Lane, situated in Danvers, Essex County, Massachusetts, to the town of Danvers Affordable Housing Trust. Mr. Chairman, we have somebody to present this.
I was going to kick off.
You're going to kick off as the...
Chairman, would you like me to step down?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Gardner's going to recuse himself? Doesn't have to.
Meant to represent what the Board of Selectmen was considering, and one of the comments from the Board of Selectmen was, is he going to recuse himself? So let's go on to the next one. Let's go to 1B, and this is in regard to what was being discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gardner Trask, Selectman, but in this capacity I'm speaking as the Chairman of the Danvers Affordable Housing Trust. As you know, the Selectmen all serve on various committees at the will of the Board to represent the Selectmen and the town at various committees. I have been on the Danvers Affordable Housing Trust since its inception.
Okay, that's clip number 2. This is our former chairman of the Board of Selectmen representing the Housing Assistance Trust. Let's go to 1C. And then that will give us a little bit of a comprehensive view of what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you. So while I'm 100% in favor of the town selling any lots of land that are buildable, certainly to the Affordable Housing Trust, and recapture that in funds, and I'm certainly in favor of using up those home funds so we don't lose it. I'm very disappointed that you weren't able to understand the septic and well piece of this lot before you came to us asking us to sell the land to the trust. And you need to know this by the end of June, is that correct?
Correct.
Right, so you are rushing. So it's very problematic for me to support something that I think is not going to happen.
Okay, next clip will be a picture that we have obtained of the piece of property, which is 1D, and then you can go in regard to your issues in regard
Sure.
to the validity of the vote that was taken. This is 3 Jalbert Lane, and that property is probably, what, less than a quarter of an acre?
Yeah, that's, part of this has been kept clear by an abutter. So the part in the background that's overgrown is about 2/3 of the lot, and then the foreground where the lawn is another piece of 3 Jalbert Lane, which is owned by the town of Danvers.
Okay.
It's difficult to understand what's in there because it's so overgrown, but I believe it's mostly wetlands and like vernal pools.
Okay. John, take it away.
Okay. Okay, so, again, as I said earlier, it's just a computer glitch that happened. No conspiracy.
that.
No, you got it, because you, in your own way, will always try to insinuate maybe it was...
Yeah, well.
Yeah, well, you're the Dark Knight, okay? Anyway, so I go before the selectmen. I go before the selectmen, public new business, and I said this: please reconsider your vote of June 18th on 3 Jalbert Lane. The vote was 3-2. And Mr. Gardner Trask, who I have had a sign on my lawn for in the past, who I voted for in the past, how can he seconded and voted for this? And I just thought it was tremendous conflict of interest. But please reconsider your vote of June 18th. There were conflicts of interest. There should have been a recusal of a selectman voting. Selectmen brought up septic issues, runoff. They did not have all the facts, and they could have had more info. Then I asked this question: was this cleared with the State Ethics Commission? And I really don't get an answer. I filled forms out, I did this, I did that. And I said, well, you know, but I never got an answer. Was the State Ethics Commission said it was fine? I bet you they never did any, I bet that never happened, but we'll see. As I mentioned, Gardner seconded the motion and voted yes on it. And he's the chairman of the committee. I had left it alone without saying anyone's name. Well, Gardner speaks up, which you're not going to see because it's not there. Gardner says, am I the selectman you're referring to? I'm like, yeah, you are. I said, you know, you're basically being judge and jury. And what I don't understand is you had town council here, and town council was never asked his opinion about this one way or the other. And it basically was left at that. So that's those 5 minutes you're missing.
So
And
what,
I said to them, my first line, that you'll never hear, is, with great reluctance, I'm appearing before you. I said, I've had signs on my lawn for 4 of you, and I voted for the other person that didn't put a sign on my lawn. So, you know, who knows what's going to come of this. I do have a suggestion. Can I make some suggestions?
very quickly.
Very quickly, okay? First of all, can you show me something from the State Ethics Commission that this is on the up and up? Now, the next meeting is in August, I think August 6th. So, just to help, I'm a town meeting member, you're a town meeting member, you're a town meeting member, you were a town meeting member, just to help people out, that I think you should call or contact the State Ethics Commission. 1 Ashburton Place, 6th floor, room 619, Boston, Mass. 02108, phone number 617-371-9500. All I want is that the vote was on the up and up. Now, here's where I'm also disappointed in the Salem News. And why? Why the Salem News? I will praise them, and I won't beat them up. They'll beat me up. But what's really strange is on June 26th, the Salem News had board chair recuses herself due to ties to developer. And it had to do in Beverly with the chairwoman of a city board who recused herself from upcoming meetings because she's the Beverly Design Review Board chairwoman. And she worked for the developer on the same project, okay? But how did this happen, her recusing herself? Cook agreed to recuse herself in the board meetings on the project after the Salem News raised questions about her relationship with Beverly Crossing. Perfect. Salem News doing their job. Do you know, I looked this up an hour ago, okay? The only story on Jalbert Lane is Wicked Local on June 24th. Not one word in the Salem News. Not one word, okay?
Well,
John,
John,
so that's where I stand. I have no ulterior motive. I got enough going on right here with dialysis. It's not like I'm looking to run. That ain't happening, okay? So if anyone says anything different, they're lying to you, okay? So I'm very interested come August if anything has happened at all. Go ahead.
You can come right back in August and see how things turn out.
Well, I'm curious what happens August 6th.
However, what you're doing is you're barking up the wrong tree.
Why am I
because this is a selectman's issue. This is not an ethics commission issue.
Yes, it is. It's a conflict of interest.
It may be.
Or an appearance of a conflict of interest.
But the selectmen, in their wisdom, can recover from this vote because that vote was illegal.
It was a legal vote.
And
yeah,
the thing that should be done is some of the Board of Selectmen, and some of them have commented on film, is that the current selectman in question should have recused himself, and the Board of Selectmen has the right and the opportunity to change that vote, reconsider it, and move forward. So the thing is that it's up to the public now to clear this issue. And the thing is that this issue is not going to get resolved until the Board of Selectmen get changed.
I really am very curious that in, let's see, 11 and 18, 11, about 22 days, 23 days, the Salem News hasn't printed one word.
Well, we have a story coming up at the end of this presentation in regard to the community news desert. And it's not desert, it's desert. It's the blank spot that we have in our newspapers. Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
Wait, one more thing. Mark took 38 minutes last show to talk about the Smith School, okay? Do you know what he had the guts to tell me the other day?
And you overran.
He had the guts to tell me, keep it down to 10 minutes.
Well, you went to 15.
You missed the 38 minutes.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, I'm out of here.
All right, let's continue.
Thanks again.
Our show will continue in a update of the Selectmen's meeting, and you attend that, and really I watched that Selectmen's meeting this afternoon, and you know what, it has turned out to be very uneventful. The Selectmen are getting themselves into a situation where they're governing building inspectors' authority in regard to the sidewalk protection. That's a construction issue. It's not a selectman's issue. But to lighten things up, what I like to do is John has a couple of issues that you would like to talk about, and we have clip number 2, which is really as a result of the Oldies Night or Family Festival celebration. So, John, if we can take a look at clip 2. And this is the Family Affairs.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. This is the July 11th, right?
Obviously, it's crowded. That was, to me, this was fantastic. The amount of people who turned out for this. But I also would like to point out that the Family Festival doing these things create a fantastic opportunity to have a good time for the citizens in Danvers. I mean, look at the crowd. Look at the variety of people there. The young kids.
That's what's called Danvers community.
Yes.
These are the people that participate in a lot of these things.
This is a prime example of the community. It just is fantastic. Look at the people. Look at the things that you can do. They were food trucks. They were food tables, if you want to call them there. It was fantastic. And it was obvious that the people were enjoying themselves.
It's an opportunity for people to enjoy family and reunion with their neighbors.
Yes.
Okay, we have next clip. I like this clip. It's clip number 3, and then we'll go to clip number 4 after that. But let's go to number 3. This is, I call this the ducklings in Danvers. So where is this, John?
Well, let me start off by saying one of the advantages of living in Danvers is the variety of opportunities you have to enjoy yourself, relax. This is the mill pond, and unfortunately we can't get the mill pond clip. But this is something that a couple of months ago I was down there and I saw mother, father, and the ducklings, the geeslings, if you want to call them.
I was wrong. These are geese. These are not
geese.
ducks.
Yes.
So
I mean, the 4 of them. And over the past several months, it's been fascinating. I've gone down there. I do a daily walk, and I can observe the geeslings growing, and it's fantastic to see them as they mature.
okay, and here's clip number 4. These are grown up?
Yes.
Halfway grown up geese.
Well, they're getting ready to fly.
There you go.
This is coming on next, and that will be the big event. As you can see, there's a lot of grass, a lot of benches and tables that you can sit at. Excellent opportunity, as I say. Get out and enjoy yourself. Take a walk and enjoy the mill pond, enjoy the ducks. There's squirrels, there's rabbits, you name it. All types of varieties of birds. The pond is full of birds, geese, ducks, so forth, seagulls.
Enjoy the outdoors.
Yes,
that's what it's
fantastic.
about. And we have plenty of that around our town, Endicott Park. I'm going to, hold off on 5 and 6. Do you have any update from the Selectmen's meeting? Because this is really a combination of Family Festival, what happened, what are we doing for our enjoyment of nature. What is this? What are the Selectmen doing this time?
Well, the summer is a slow period for them, so there was a discussion about 44 Maple Street. You mentioned the sidewalks. The Selectmen are responsible for licensing or allowing the sidewalks to be used during construction. Specifically the installation of scaffolding or staging for this project, which is going to occur for about 9 months throughout the winter. And so the Selectmen want to make sure that the staging is maintained safely and that pedestrians that are patronizing the businesses nearby are not put at risk. So it's entirely appropriate for the selectmen to require some bonds, and that the developer or the construction manager adhere to safe procedures. So
Well,
that was the biggest topic at Tuesday's meeting.
right. There was a special meeting just for that, I think. But what I understand is, and being in construction for 45 years, this is a little bit unusual. I mean, the selectmen have the town hall, the building inspector, for those types of decisions that a contractor does. Our selectmen seem to be getting into the bug dust of everything that's going on. Maybe some of it is appropriate, but a lot of it is the issues that we have controlling our contractors, controlling our development. There's a planning board, there's a building inspector, and building inspector is the one that's responsible for that safety issue. So, but I'm glad that they gave him the permit, whatever that means. However, I think they went way overboard, but that's okay. Next item, and I'll introduce this item because this is something close to my neighborhood. Endicott Park, clip number 5, had a Indian powwow, native Indian powwow, that occurs, I think, almost every year now. It's an annual affair. They come with their their dancing, their powwow. They smoke the peace pipe and everything else. So I hope they don't object to them smoking on the grounds of Endicott Park. But I attended that. If you go to clip number 6, we have our local Indian. He's a chief, and he came in and demonstrated the attire, the weapons that they have. They had all kinds of different paraphernalia that they were selling. But this is something that's close to the heart of a lot of residents in Danvers, because a lot of them probably have some Indian blood, whether they know or not know, because I know that even in our close community there are people that have Indian blood. They have a lot of Indian blood. These guys come in from Oklahoma, and they demonstrated around the country. So it was a good family festival edition. I don't know whether they sponsored this or not, but this occurs every year now. So if we move on to the next story, and what I like to do is, and I'll speak for less than 38 minutes this time, so John won't get upset. I just want to bring everybody up to date on the Water and Sewer Board and the massive, massive rate increase that was imposed on the residents of Danvers. And they're talking about 15%. As you have known from the past, I have attended every single one of these Water and Sewer Board meetings, and I will just run clip number 7 because there are 3 issues that has driven this, and one of them is the management. So if you could run number 7.
And I would just point out again, you seem fixated on this accounting error. There's no recommendation in this rate to correct that. Our retained earnings are $1.5 million lower than they would have been. The way we would have had a 0 rate this year would have been, had those dollars been there, would have been to raid our reserves to cover operating costs, which is budget 101 no-no. We have real challenges in this system, driven in large part by the weather, in large part by the DEP's Water Management Act permit, in large part by the fact that we have a 100-year-old system that has unexpected costs all the time. And unfortunately, costs go up, they don't go down. So I hear what you're saying. I think they're points well made, but I would disagree with some of them in terms of where you're coming from.
So just to bring you up to date, this was all in regard to an accounting error that happened back in 2015, 2016. And it was not an error, but a misplacement of the commitments for $1.5 million. In the meantime, when that was not committed to spending, the water and sewer manager went ahead and spent the money because he thought he had it on hand. So it's not his fault. He was just following his books. So basically what happened is after the accounting error was reversed, it accumulated to $3 million worth of spending. The previous year's spending and this year's spending, because they haven't stopped spending money on repairs and maintenance and development of water supply. The Canal Street garage was being discussed at that time. Now, just, I think I've asked the question, was this as a result of that? Nobody's answering the question. Let's go to clip number 8. And clip number 8 is more definitive.
Well, the thing is, it's a surprise. And it has been a surprise for the last month or so. We've been talking about it. The problem is that there's really no explanation for it, except that something happened in the past.
So I have raised questions at that board and to the town, well, the town manager showed up after they called out the big guns for the water and sewer board. The manager of the water and sewer department called out both the town manager, who's a pseudo manager of the water and sewer division, and the finance director, Rodney. And I have even spoken to Rodney in regard to this, and I still don't get a straight answer. So I feel like this was a fabricated increase in the amount of money that was being asked for in the rate increase. 15%. The last rate increase in that level was back in 2010 for 11% at that time. And that was during Lenny's time. And at that time, I was not involved, but I should have been. So let's go to clip number 9.
In 2010, we used the same amount of water. So nothing's changed since then. So the water use or the water consumption is not an excuse for this rate increase.
If the cost of everything else were to remain constant and there'd be no debt service, I would agree 100% with that statement.
And that's where we have to put our efforts, because we talked last meeting about spreading out the cost of some of these capital projects. And we talked about 3 of them at that time. And they should have been on a debt service instead of a lump sum spending of funds.
So the reasoning behind the rate increase was because we're using less water. And according to the statistics, it's true. But that's intentional. We have successfully implemented the water consumption reductions because of the environmental impacts and the incentives that we provide to our neighbors. We also restrict the water use. So the thing is that this is a vicious circle that happened. And the thing is that we cannot continue this because we have to plan further ahead. Let's go to clip number 10. And I have one more after that, and we'll stop talking about water consumption.
The same thing that's going on with the water and sewer garage. I mean, we're spending reserves that we don't have. And what we're doing is we're authorizing all of this, but nobody's considering the effect that it's going to have on the rate. I hate to use my expression that the water and sewer users are not a cash cow either.
That was my favorite expression for the electric company, and now it's turning out that I'm using the same term for the water and sewer company. But this is something that should have been planned for and gradually increase the rates. So if we have clip number 11, it's a conclusion. They voted for the 15% increase in the water rates and a 1% increase in the sewer rates because we were up to date on the sewer. So if you go to clip number 11, that basically sums up the whole meeting, and I will stop talking about it.
David.
So it's the result of the motion is a overall 15% increase in the water rate and a 1% increase in the sewer rate, which puts us at a blended together increase of just over 8.5%.
Water and sewer.
Water and sewer combined, yes, sir.
Okay. And that rate will stay in place, and you'll be increasing next year's rate by 3% after this has been increased already, right?
And that is absolutely correct. And using a blended rate, which means nothing except that they want to minimize the blow to the ratepayers, because what they're using is combining the water increase and the sewer increase and saying, okay, it's 16% altogether, but now because we look at it at both sides, it's half and half, it's 8.7%. That is a political number that should not be considered. We have mismanaged our water rates, and our water rates are the highest on the North Shore, and I've gone through a calculation and some data. Even Salem and Beverly and Peabody are half the price of our water, and they're using MWRA. Maybe we should go to MWRA, and then we'll get a better price. End of the story. We are stuck with it, but we need residents and ratepayers to go to these meetings and complain, because it's a problem. All right, next story. You want to say anything about the water rates?
Well, you know, there's a finite amount of water that we're allowed to draw based on the permit that we get from Mass DEP. So we're using less water, but our costs for you know, equipment and for labor is going to continue to increase. And also we have some capital projects for infrastructure improvements for new water lines, and
that's spread over a long period of time.
Yeah,
You're
so
right.
I think this is this is not a short-term situation. This is something that we're going to have to be accustomed to, that the costs will continue to rise. Even if you reduce your consumption, the bill will not reflect that.
Well, the supply of water is available. It's a matter of not being able to sell more to the residents because they have cut back their consumption.
As we asked them.
As we asked them to. And we are incentivizing them to keep it lower and lower.
And their bills are going up as they use less.
That's right. So that's the main issue. John, you got anything on the water and sewer, or?
Well, no, I have to admit I'm betwixt and between. Water and sewer is something that, let's say, we should maintain all the time. And there were a period of years that we didn't do anything, and many of the piping and so forth got out of date. So we're as I understand it, we're involved in renewing the pipelines and so forth to supply Danvers housing with good, clean water. And it's just one of those things that should be going on every year. But at the same time, we seem to be spending an awful lot of money on a lot of other things.
And the thing is that we're not planning ahead. This year, finally, we had a $10 million allocation to the next 5 years to replace pipes as they were needed to deliver the water to the homes. However, that's a long-range plan.
Yes.
Which our pipes are old, and some of them do break. I mean, you know, we've had breaks all over the place. But the thing is that this has to happen more often than not, because what we're doing is spending our money, the receipts, on a garage that's sitting there vacant, basically, and you're going to be talking about the contaminated dirt that was in there later. So, next item, we have a quick announcement, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because you've heard all this detail in the past, over the last 3 or 4 years. So this is nothing new. Notice of investigation and request for comment. On February 1, 2018, the Department of Public Utilities received a letter from a customer of the Danvers Electric Division concerning the propriety and transfers of funds balances by Danvers Electric to other department divisions of the town of Danvers. Danvers Electric is a municipal light plant that is overseen by a municipal light board pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 164, Section 55. The letter included a list of such transfers, which I have been preaching for the last 3-4 years, which, if it alleged, were for purposes unrelated to Danvers Electric Division's provision of electricity to the customers. A letter also included a petition of at least 39 Danvers Electric customers, and this investigation is basically a result of the issues that I have been defining along the way for construction of the intersections at Locust Street. Total construction of Summer Street intersection. The rail trail maintenance. There's a bridge that's being done on the rail trail for the Danvers Electric. $5 million that was allocated to a retirement fund for the town, basically. And it's all coming out of the Danvers Electric customers' rates. The rates have not gone down. The rates have not changed. And even in the last 2 months, there was a notice from the DPU that the rates were not certified since 2009. So they had to do an emergency signing of the rate calculation and submitting it to the DPU. It's a significant issue for the customers of the electric company. And like I said, for the water, we cannot use the electric company as the cash cow for funding projects that are not funded from the tax base. So just want to let you know this is ongoing, and this is something that we'll be watching from now on, because there's a reply required in August, and we will continue on this story from now on. John, we have your 2 clips right now, and one of them is for the soil contamination at the Canal Street garage. So this flows right into it. So we can go to clip number 12. There's the pile of dirt and we have been watching this for a long time. So you want to go
Well,
on
just
that
a
one?
just a quick overview. A while back, I did a show on a part of the show on hazardous waste and so forth, and you can see some of the results of the hazardous waste at Brown Pond and the area and around it, and what happened. Well, recently there was an article in the Salem News, and they brought up the fact that can you run
Clip 13.
13? Gallows Hill Park, City of Salem, Massachusetts. Lo and behold, what are they finding in there? The EPA has been in, and they're finding that hazardous waste, arsenic. Sound familiar? That's what Danvers found. And why are they thinking it's there? Oh, the leather factory, same as in Danvers. As I did the last time, I showed you this map. You want to run
There you go.
this map here? This is Danvers, okay? And as you can see, all the pins and the red dots and so forth. Basically, there were 14 different leather factories over a period of time in Danvers. Basically, the leather factories all get around the liquid, the ponds, the ponds and streams and so forth, and they all run down into the Danvers River. Now, if you look here, you can see all these, they're almost a straight line, and they come down, and they go through what basically became the Browns Pond situation. If you remember that, and they went in and they did some testing, and they dug out all of the hazardous waste that they found. But that raises the question, if it's one place with one leather factory, and you had over 14 of them here, what's the obvious decision? You should check to see what's going on, if anything. More than likely it is. It's rather, I don't know. I feel sorry about everything going on in town. Can we rerun the Gallows Hill, what was that, 13?
13, yep.
Yeah. You see, this is the same thing. You see the ballpark there, you see the
Residential's right around it, too.
well, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
The EPA is now going in and setting up meetings with the residential people. You can see how the park is all surrounded by housing and so forth. And they're going to be checking. And this is what happened in Browns Pond. More than likely, you're going to come up with the same thing. And
Well, we as you know, we had a meeting in regard to another location down by the Polish Club, and I don't know what that is called now.
Crease and Cook.
Crease and Cook.
Crease and Cook.
Crease and Cook is a major remediation site. They're talking $40 million or more. And the thing is that we have submitted to the Department of Environmental Protection, federal,
Yeah, it's a Superfund site, I
that
believe.
particular map locating all of those items, because John worked so hard on trying to get all this identified, and we found a map from 1872, I think.
Yes.
And that map has shown at least 14 to 25 different sites. And the sites may be small because there were shops and little spots where they were tanning the leather, but the soil underneath is contaminated. And the thing is that 20 years ago, at least as far as I remember, there were cancer hotspots that were being discussed, and nobody got to it because they were afraid of uncovering something that's going to be dangerous. And it is hurting people. So we need to follow this up. Crease and Cook is going to be coming up soon, I think as soon as they get their funding, because right now they are not responding at all.
Well, one thing that I have to laugh at, go back 70, 80 years ago, and I grew up on Liberty Street. And we used to boat down the river, swim at Sandy Beach and so forth, and what was just upstream a little?
Yep.
The leather factory. And I have to think, now they're talking about all of this water was being contaminated and so forth, and everybody in town was swimming in the river, going down to Sandy Beach. God help us all.
Right. So we'll follow that up again. I mean, that's something that's not going to go away. We have a next couple of items, and one of those items is a news story that I brought up a couple of shows before, but this is a story in regards to the lack of community print news or even cable news. We are the only cable news outlet here in Danvers because we have focused on Danvers only. We don't go into the state, the federal, or whatever. But in the meantime, representative from Marblehead, Lori Ehrlich, and senator from Marblehead, I believe, Senator Crichton, have introduced legislation in the House of Representatives will create a forum to propose policy solutions related to the state of the local journalism in Massachusetts and the future sustainability of the industry. And this rang a bell with me, at least, because I even presented a letter to the legislation. But the thing is, the legislators are concerned about it, but we have been lacking community news for the last 30 to 50 years, basically. It's been shrinking as we go along. So we in the marketplace have created this problem, and now the legislators and the industry want to study what happened over the last 50 years. We have to be careful to recognize that the legislative process cannot fix our problem, but we need to challenge the corporate establishment, like Salem News. Danvers Herald doesn't exist anymore except electronically. Local magazines that are produced, they do help to explore some of the neighboring issues, but they're all focused on advertising. And then, yes, the newspapers do have to survive, but they survive on advertising. That's where they make their money. And now there's a lack of readership because there's lack of articles that are related to our day-to-day activities. So what I proposed to Karen Andreas, and she's the publisher of the Salem News or the Herald Tribune, and I will approach her that maybe we should have a little forum of our own. Why is the news not being disseminated for the communities that the newspapers are being sold in?
Well, one of the biggest problems is everybody's using the phones and the computers.
Right.
It's use.
But you see, some of the things, journalism, let's say this one paragraph. Local and community reporting should be prompt and concise without the national fake news and politically correct learning editorials. Boston papers do enough damage to our understanding of what the state and national news is. But Boston newspapers focus on Boston as the primary objective. Our local papers do not even do our local news anymore, because what they do is they pick up stories from the surrounding area or from Boston, basically, and they print all that. So why do we even have the papers? But we do need the papers. I agree. The thing is that we need to maybe explore this a little bit. What I was thinking is getting Karen Andreas and Jeff Pope, who was for the Danvers Herald. They have moved their offices now into Beverly, so they're no longer even a Danvers Herald doesn't exist anymore. So that's something that we would like to take a look at, and I will approach, and maybe we can do that the last show in July. Our next show is not going to be until July 25th, and then we'll skip August altogether, so we can concentrate on our own time and our family time. In the meantime, I have a little story here. I'm looking at the application that has been sent out to the general public from the town hall. This is being sponsored by the town manager's office, and it's called Citizens Academy. Now, I think I may just sign up. What about you?
It's on Thursday nights.
Oh, Thursday nights, that's a bad, yeah, but it's only from 6 to 8:30.
It's a conflict. Decisions.
Why we moved the show to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But this is going to be very interesting, because if somebody goes in and asks the right questions, they will not have the right answers. All this is going to be is a canned presentation of what each department does. We know what the police department does. We know what the fire department. DPW is, of course, kind of a little secret underneath there. We don't know what they do. But theirs is the biggest department in the budget. Education is another one.
You have to sign up for this?
Yes, you do.
You have to submit an application.
And you have to get a waiver on the liability that you won't disturb the meeting, I guess.
I think it's good for certain people.
It's good for certain people, but maybe we should go in there.
We should do
all
it.
3 of us.
Yeah, we should videotape it.
And maybe, yeah.
When does it start?
September 12th.
The deadline for the application
is...
It's on the next page. I think it's the beginning of August, right?
August 9th.
Yeah, you have to submit your application by August 9th.
August 9th, so...
You can download that from the town's website.
Town website, and what we need is, if you're interested, that's something that should be attended to. We may just attend it from the interest point
pull
of...
back the curtain, see the wizard.
How does the wizard work behind the curtains? You're right. That's absolutely correct. So, another thing that we want to do is... very soon is talk about the planning, because we have either redevelopment or overdevelopment in our downtown area. And that's something that you've been concentrating on. Matt, you've been attending the planning board meetings and all that.
There's a couple of large projects in the pipeline.
The thing is that they're talking about applying the same zoning requirements as are in place for the lower end of Maple Street, right? However, the thing is that I don't see is what are the results of that zoning change that happened last year, and
there are no results yet.
There's nothing yet.
No.
The only thing that they know of is that they've collected $200,000 from the state because the state jammed it down our throat.
This is for future development. This is the kind of a template for what future construction or development will look like. And the new overlay that's coming along is the commercial, the C1 and the C1A is going to go to town meeting at the end of the year. So there's a hiatus in the summertime with the planning. Once September rolls around, they'll gear up again with aggressive interaction with residents to get input through workshops.
Where is that going to cover?
That's just going to collect more community input to see, you know, they don't want to just create these this new bylaws in a vacuum. They want input from the businesses and from the residents to make sure that, you know, they have a good overall perspective of what.
But what I thought this was going to be is an extension of the current zoning change that was limited to the hot wat properties.
It's very similar to that. Yep, it'll allow commercial, or it'll allow residential in a commercial zone, which today is not allowed. So it's an overlay, and ideally there'll be commercial stores on the first floor, and then second and third floor will be residential. So you'll have a more vibrant downtown that has.
It'd be more vibrant with people trying to find a parking space, which they don't have.
People may not have. They may not need a car. That's an alternative. People, you know, younger folks don't own cars.
If they don't have a car, where are they going to get a job?
They might work in the square. They might live and work in Danvers. They could use Ubers to get around. They don't necessarily. In the future, people won't actually need to own cars. Sounds like a foreign concept, but that's kind of.
Well, the one thing that I would, if you can present that back to the planning board. I may want to attend one of those meetings, but what are the results of the current zoning change that have been made, and how is that being applied? Because it's a process. The overlay is a process where they were requiring certain criteria of, you know, backing the first floor, being
there'd be step backs as you go up.
Step back and another step back. I haven't seen any of that.
Yeah, well, you will see it because this 40 Maple Street where Goodies is, that has special permits and variances from the planning board and from the ZBA. So, but that will be kind of a good barometer of what the downtown could look like. That construction will start at the end of September. That overlay that's in the Hobart and Maple Street area, right, that's to deal with the hot wat. Right now, the hot wat property is under a demolition delay from the Preservation Commission, but within a few months that will expire, and that whole site can be leveled. And so having this overlay in place kind of set some standards about what the future holds for that property.
But we haven't seen any proposals or anything of what's going to be built.
It's
but that
coming.
was one of the reasons why they put this in, was that they could get more proposals.
Well, that's
they wanted to attract developers.
Right.
Well, it's smart growth. It's all about.
All right, Danvers, good night, and we'll see you back on July 25th at, well, we'll be filming at 4 p.m. If you have any questions, holler out whether to DCAT, or you can email us directly or call us directly. Good night.
Good night, Danvers.
Right.